The order that sent 600 men to their death, Balaclava, 1854. They didn't lose because they were outmatched. They lost because one order arrived without a clear target and no one dared to ask what it actually meant. This series is about battles lost to chaos, not tactics, panic. Bad orders, broken communication, night confusion, exhaustion, human error. Because when identification fails and information collapses, armies don't just lose fights, they lose reality. October 25, 1854. The Crimean War. Outside a place called Balaclava, the British cavalry, some of the best riders on earth will ride straight down a long open valley into cannon fire from 3 directions. Not because they're reckless, not because they're stupid, because the chain of command turns uncertainty into momentum and momentum turns into slaughter. Before we light the fuse, one responsible note. Sources disagree on the exact wording of the order and the exact tone of the messenger who delivered it. Memoirs, reports, and later accounts don't line up perfectly. What's not disputed is the outcome. The Light Brigade charged the wrong objective under catastrophic fire and paid for a misunderstanding with blood. Now, why are they even here? The Allies are in Crimea to break Russian power in the Black Sea, and the prize is Sevastopol. But Sevastopol is a siege, and a siege is a machine that eats supplies. Guns, ammunition, food, horses, wagons. Without a working supply line, the siege collapses. Balaclava is one of those lifelines, a port and a route that keeps the army alive. So when Russian forces push toward Balaclava that morning, it's not a skirmish. It's hands reaching for the throat. The day begins messy. Forward positions fall. Redoubts change hands. Smoke drifts across open ground. Men run messages by horse because that's the internet of 1854. A human being bouncing over terrain, hoping the words in his pocket arrive intact. And somewhere in that chaos are cannons, artillery pieces captured and being moved. In this era, guns are not just weapons, they're trophies. Losing them is humiliation. Letting the enemy haul them away feels like watching your own pride roll off the battlefield on wooden wheels. Up on the heights sits Lord Raglan, the British commander. From his vantage point, he can see a wide slice of the field. He can see Russians shifting. He can see movement around guns. Down below, in the low ground, are the cavalry commanders, Lord Lucan and Lord Cardigan. And here's the first hidden trap. 2 commanders are looking at the same war and seeing 2 different worlds. Raglan's view is panoramic. Lucan's view is sliced by terrain. The battlefield is not one truth. It's multiple truths competing. The second trap is human. Lucan and Cardigan are not a team. They are rivals. Cold, proud, combustible. And rivalry matters because when an order is unclear, a healthy command climate asks questions. A toxic one takes offense. In a toxic one, clarification feels like weakness. Then comes the trigger. Raglan wants the cavalry to prevent the Russians from carrying off captured guns. Reasonable intent, but intent is fragile. It has to survive translation. Raglan writes an order. It goes down the chain through Captain Louis Nolan, fast rider, sharp tongue, the kind of messenger who doesn't just deliver words, but delivers attitude. And attitude is gasoline in a system already leaking sparks. Lucan receives the order. He reads it, and it's not clear enough. It references the guns, but not which guns, and not with a reference point. Lucan can see from the valley floor. From Raglan's height, the guns might mean the ones near the forward positions. From Lucan's position, the most obvious guns in view are far down the valley, an entire Russian battery, supported and protected with flanking fire on both sides. This is the moment where the system should save lives. A disciplined system does something simple here, it confirms. It clarifies. It asks, which guns? What is the intent? stop removal, capture, or harass. Are we supported? But the system doesn't do that. Maybe because time feels urgent. Maybe because pride makes questions feel like hesitation. Maybe because Nolan's delivery makes Lucan feel judged. Maybe because Lucan thinks, if I ask again, Raglan will think I'm stalling. Maybe because Cardigan will use any hesitation as a weapon later. Whatever the reason, the outcome is the same. Ambiguity survives. And ambiguity, when it moves down a hierarchy, doesn't stay ambiguous. It hardens into a decision. Lucan passes the instruction to Cardigan. Cardigan commands the Light Brigade, about 600 men. They form up. And now the order meets the final, fatal translator, a human gesture. Accounts vary, but what matters is that Nolan indicates a direction that makes the order seem to point straight down the valley. A vague phrase becomes a concrete line. Uncertainty becomes a target. And once a target exists, the machine starts moving. The Light Brigade advances, first controlled, then faster. They're entering a corridor where the ground itself becomes a weapon, long, open, and exposed. Russian guns at the end, Russian guns on the heights, and as the cavalry rides forward, the enemy doesn't need genius tactics. The valley does the work for them. Now, quick pause before the charge turns into a nightmare. If you like stories where wars are decided by miscommunication and human failure, hit like and subscribe. It tells the algorithm this series is worth pushing, and it helps me keep making these. And if there's a battle where command fell apart, wrong orders, friendly fire, night panic, drop the name and year in the comments. I'll dig into the best suggestions. Back to the valley. Imagine being one of those riders. You can see the guns. You can see the flanks. You can feel the math in your bones. This doesn't look like a clever plan. It looks like a straight ride into death. So why do they keep going? It's also an information cascade. Each rider looks left and right and sees the line still moving. If the men beside you aren't stopping, your brain reads that as proof. Maybe they know something you don't. Officers see their troopers advancing and assume the order must be clear enough. Troopers see officers calm-faced and assume there's a plan behind the chaos. In seconds, doubt becomes socially expensive. The safest emotional move is to act confident and keep riding, because fear is contagious and nobody wants to be the one who starts it. Because authority is gravity. Because in a hierarchy, obeying is easier than improvising. Because stopping and asking questions in front of everyone can look like fear. Because once the unit moves, social momentum turns. Maybe we should clarify into we can't turn back now. The first shells land. Dirt erupts. Horses scream. Men drop. The formation shudders but keeps going because stopping inside the kill zone is worse than pushing through it. Here's the cruel paradox. When an order is wrong, it often becomes deadliest precisely because soldiers follow it with discipline. The better they are, the faster they reach the point of no return. They gallop through a storm of iron. They reach the battery at the end. For a brief, violent moment, steel and chaos collide, sabers shouting, gunners scrambling, horses crashing into lines. Some of them actually break through. But there is no support behind them, no infantry pouring in, no second wave sealing the success. The valley has swallowed them whole, so the survivors turn back, and the return is its own execution. Now the formation is shattered. Wounded men, scattered groups, riderless horses, and the same guns fire again into the fleeing silhouettes. The brigade rides out the way it rode in, through a hallway of death. When it's over, the battlefield doesn't feel like a defeat won by Russian brilliance. It feels like a punishment for a sentence that never got properly translated. Now the blame begins, because after chaos, humans crave a villain. People want one fool to point at, one man to hate, one mistake to isolate. But this wasn't one mistake. This was a system failure. A commander issues an order that depends on shared visual context. A messenger delivers it with urgency and attitude. A subordinate interprets it through limited visibility. Rivalry and pride discourage clarification. A unit executes with discipline, and the organization realizes the error only after the cost has been paid. That's what makes Balaclava horrifying. Everyone involved can tell themselves they did what they were supposed to do. And this is where the psychology matters, because if you think you would have stopped it, you're underestimating how panic spreads and how information collapse rewires decisions. When information is scarce, humans reach for certainty. They lock on to the most obvious interpretation. They assume the system above them has the bigger picture. They tell themselves, surely this makes sense, surely there's support, surely the plan will reveal itself. Surely is a coffin word. Once the first casualties fall, the brain commits harder. Turning back feels like admitting the order was wrong, and admitting that feels like disobeying. So momentum becomes a trap. The deeper you go, the less you can question the path. Now, system lessons. The point of this series is not to gawp at tragedy. It's to pull the wiring out of a wall and show you how it burned. Lesson 1. Orders must carry intent and reference, not attack the guns. Which guns, from whose perspective, and for what purpose? Prevent removal is not the same mission as charge and capture. Those are different risks, different formations, different support requirements. Lesson 2. Confirmation must be procedural, not personal. If an order is ambiguous, the system should force a check. Not optional. Not dependent on whether two commanders like each other. A simple protocol, confirm objective, confirm direction, confirm support, can save hundreds. Lesson 3. Redundancy matters. If one messenger can distort an order, your system is fragile. You need overlapping channels, written clarity, repeat back confirmation, multiple observers with the same map language. Lesson 4. Command relationships are combat power. If senior leaders are rivals, their units inherit the fracture. Pride becomes friction. Friction becomes delay or misinterpretation. And in war, small delays and small misunderstandings don't stay small. Balaclava is famous for bravery. It should be studied for something colder. How an army can be courageous and still be guided like a blindfolded animal into a trap it built for itself. Because in the end, the Light Brigade didn't choose that valley. A broken communication system chose it for them. This is battles lost to chaos. And this was the day command failed in daylight. Balaclava, 1854. And next time, we zoom out from one valley to the bigger principle behind all of it, the cost of confusion in war, how uncertainty multiplies casualties, how misinformation becomes a force multiplier, and why "I didn't know" is one of the most dangerous sentences on any battlefield.